Doctrine, the Antichrist. 1 John 4:3. And every spirit that confesses not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now is already in the world. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. We are of God, he that knoweth God heareth us. He that is not of God heareth not us. Hereby we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Okay. Much of seminary theology concerning the Antichrist comes from the Catholic Church by way of Francisco Ribera, Robert Bellarmine, and Michael Walpole. During this time, they were burning Bibles and not allowing the general public to have them or any other interpretation of the Bible contrary to Catholic teaching. Men were being killed who would not submit to the Catholic Church, even if their total allegiance was to God himself. The Catholic origins of futurism and preterism. Manuel de la Cunza, a Jesuit from Chile, wrote a manuscript in Spanish titled The Coming of the Messiah in Glory and Majesty under the pen name of Juan Josafa Rabbi ben Ezra about 1791. Lacunza wrote under an assumed Jewish name to obscure the fact that he was a Catholic, in order to give his book better acceptance in Protestantism, his intended audience. Also, an advocate of futurism, Lacunza was deliberately attempting to take the pressure off the papacy by proposing that the Antichrist was still off in the future. His manuscript was published in London, Spain, Mexico, and Paris between 1811 and 1826. So, the Protestants adopted Catholic views of the Antichrist. They did this because Protestants believed the Catholic Church was an Antichrist spirit, so at the Fifth Lateran Council in 1512 through 17, they made laws forbidding any books to be published without prior censorship or to teach on the subject of the Antichrist at all. The Catholic views on this subject matter are still predominant in seminary of any kind today. They succeeded quite well in sewing the matter up into the shell of their choosing. I do not adopt their viewpoints because I'm not Catholic and never went to seminary. I'm strictly a Bible reader who listens to other views and compares them to what makes sense in the Word. There are many books about the Antichrist, and most people know he is the little horn of Daniel 7, that he is the man who gets bound in hell for the millennial reign in Isaiah 14:12 through 23. And yes, I did say he would arrive there in the body of a man. The Bible doesn't make mistakes like that. We know that he gains power by way of peace. Daniel 8:23 through 25. I reject vehemently that the Antichrist is represented by the first horseman. The reasons being that Jesus was the catalyst to send out those horsemen, and the only spirit Jesus promised to send was the Holy Spirit, and because, as the verse in 1 John said, the spirit of the Antichrist was already at work. To say that Jesus sends out this spirit by opening a seal is contrary to Revelation 13, where it plainly says that the beast gives the Antichrist his power. Power to kill saints, no doubt. I can't see Christ releasing such an animal. Can you? So my interpretation about the horseman is different. Jesus told the apostles that if he did not ascend, he could not send the Holy Spirit. John 16:6 through 11. In this same passage, Christ explains that the Spirit he would send would do several things. He would not just be there for Christians, but he would also reprove the world of sin, righteousness, and judgment. Therefore, it's my belief that the day of Pentecost was the arrival of the Spirit on earth and the opening of the first seal in heaven. The reason I add this into this section is because of a prophecy Jacob gave for his son Dan. Genesis 49:16 through 18. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. I also want to point out that when the rapture happens and 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel are sealed to remain to witness to the world what the truth is, Dan is not listed among them there. Joseph is listed, and Manasseh, his oldest son, Revelation 7. I find it curious that none from the tribe of Dan are sealed for protection from the plagues the Lord intends to send. There are two other verses that stand out to me in the Bible. Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now, if the Holy Spirit and Jesus are one and the same, and the horsemen represent the Holy Spirit, then the prophecy about Dan becomes very important. It is commonly accepted that Christ represents the seed of the woman who bruises the head of the serpent. I believe it would follow that the Antichrist might represent the seed of the serpent. And finally, Jesus said, John 5:43, I am come in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. Maybe I would not take that verse very seriously, but I don't believe Jesus ever said an idle word in his life. He was letting them know they would one day accept the Antichrist. And I don't believe they would follow anyone as the Messiah who did not have Jewish blood. I know that isn't popular, but I believe it to be the truth. I want to point out, one of those horsemen carries scales, and it says a penny for a measure of this and for a measure of that. The Antichrist isn't going to be using pennies. He's going to use the mark of the beast. Just something to think about.